She woke up early as the first rays of the sun slipped through the thin curtains of the small bedroom. She sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, feeling the cool floor under her feet and thinking about the day ahead. She had grown used to waking before anyone else in the house, because she liked to help with the chores and start the day calmly without rushing. Her parents were still asleep, and the quiet of the morning gave her a sense of peace that she did not always feel during the rest of the day. The house was modest, but filled with memories and small touches that made it feel warm. Her mother had always loved to keep things neat and cheerful, even when times were hard. There were small framed pictures on the walls of happy family moments and little trinkets that reminded them of trips and celebrations that had once brought laughter into the house. She loved looking at these items because they reminded her that even when life was difficult, there were moments worth remembering. She went to the kitchen and began her morning routine, washing dishes and preparing breakfast. While the aroma of freshly brewed tea filled the room, she moved quietly so as not to wake her parents too soon. She had learned over the years that a gentle presence was often more comforting than words. The kitchen was small but organized, and she felt a sense of pride as she arranged everything neatly. The small act of putting the utensils in order and arranging the plates gave her a feeling of control. In a life that often felt uncertain, her mother finally entered the kitchen, rubbing her eyes and smiling softly. She greeted her daughter with a gentle nod, and together they moved through the morning tasks. Without much conversation, but with a silent understanding that connected them, she could sense the worry in her mother's movements, the slight hesitation in the way she carried herself, the unspoken thoughts that weighed on her mind. She did not ask questions yet, but she made a mental note to watch closely for anything unusual. Her father joined them a little later, bringing with him the scent of the outdoors. He was tired from work, but tried to put on a cheerful face for the family. Even though his eyes showed fatigue, he always made an effort to greet his daughter warmly. She returned the gesture with a soft smile and a sense of comfort, knowing that he was there. His presence brought a stability to the house that she cherished even when life seemed complicated. After breakfast, she decided to step outside for a short walk in the yard. The morning air was fresh, and the birds chirped softly in the trees. She took a deep breath and let her mind wander to thoughts of her family and the responsibilities she carried. She often thought about the challenges they faced, the bills that needed paying, the small arguments that seemed to arise from stress, and the health concerns that lingered quietly in the background. She wished she could do more to ease their burdens, and often wondered how she could make their lives better. As she walked, she noticed small details she had never paid attention to before. The garden needed watering, the fence needed some repair, and the old swing in the corner looked like it could use a fresh coat of paint. She imagined herself taking care of these tasks one by one, creating a space that would bring happiness and comfort to her family. Even these small thoughts made her feel a sense of purpose and determination. When she returned inside, she found her parents sitting at the table discussing something in hushed voices. She sensed the tension immediately there. Conversation stopped as she entered, but she could feel the weight of unspoken words in the room. It was not the first time she had noticed that her parents sometimes hid things from each other and from her. She wondered what it could be this time, but chose to stay quiet. She had learned that some matters were not hers to solve, yet observing and understanding was often just as important. She helped clear the table and then offered to assist with organizing the small stack of papers that had been left on the counter. The papers included bills, notices, and letters. She carefully arranged them, separating what was urgent from what could wait. She could see the worry in her parents' eyes as they looked at the pile, and she silently promised herself that she would find a way to help them, even if it meant sacrificing some of her own time and comfort. Later in the day, she decided to sit by the window with a notebook. She liked to write her thoughts, even if no one ever read them. Writing helped her make sense of her feelings and gave her a private space to reflect on life. She wrote about her dreams, her hopes for her family, and the small moments of joy she noticed each day. The soft scratch of the pen against paper was comforting, and she felt a sense of clarity with every word she wrote. Her mother called her to help with preparing lunch, and she moved quickly to assist. The kitchen was warm with the smell of cooking and the quiet chatter of daily life. She chopped vegetables, washed rice, and prepared simple dishes while her mother supervised. She felt the satisfaction that came from doing something useful in knowing that her efforts made life a little easier for those she loved in. The afternoon she went through old photographs and letters tucked away in a small drawer. She enjoyed looking at these pieces of the past because they reminded her of stories she had heard from her parents. She noticed some letters that seemed different from the rest, with folded edges and faded ink. She wondered what secrets they might hold and why they had been kept hidden. She could not ask yet, but she felt a growing curiosity that tugged at her heart. Evening approached, and the house settled into a comfortable routine. Her father returned from work, and the family shared a simple meal together. They talked about the day in quiet tones, and laughter occasionally filled the room. Her heart swelled with love as she watched her parents interact. She knew that life was not always easy, but moments like these reminded her of why she worked so hard to support them and care for their well-being. After dinner, she helped with cleaning and then went to her room to prepare for bed. She reflected on the day, the small tasks she had completed, and the subtle signs she had noticed that suggested something was not quite right. She felt a sense of duty and determination that had been growing inside her for some time. She knew that her role in the family was more than just chores. It was about understanding, protecting, and supporting those she loved in ways that might not be obvious, but were deeply important. As she lay in bed, she thought about the future, the possibilities, and the responsibilities that awaited her. She felt a mixture of hope and anxiety, because she cared deeply for her family and wanted to do everything she could to help them. She knew that there were secrets in the house, things left unsaid that she might one day uncover. She wondered what they were and how they would change the way she saw her family. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of the blankets and the quiet strength that came from knowing that she would face whatever came her way with courage and love. The night was silent, except for the faint sounds of the town settling down. She thought about the people in her life, the love she felt for her parents, and the commitment she had made to herself to be a source of support and comfort. She knew that life would not always be easy, but the small acts of care she performed each day were building something strong and enduring. She drifted into sleep, with the promise to herself that she would continue to watch, to learn, and to protect the family she loved so deeply. The morning sunlight came softly through the window, and she woke feeling the quiet weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She had slept thinking about the subtle tension she had noticed the night before, and the small clues in the letters and photographs that hinted at something hidden. She rose from bed quietly, moved to the kitchen to begin the morning routine. She felt a mix of curiosity and concern for her family, and the thoughts in her mind kept returning to questions she was not ready to ask her. Mother was already in the kitchen preparing breakfast, and she joined. Without saying much, just moving through the motions as they had done for years, she noticed the slight worry in her mother's eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly as she held the teacup. She wondered if her mother was hiding something more than just fatigue or stress. She chose to stay quiet for now, but promised herself she would pay closer attention to every detail. She had learned that sometimes the smallest gestures could reveal the biggest truths. After breakfast, she stepped outside into the yard, where the air was crisp and the soft sounds of birds filled the space. She walked slowly, noticing the flowers that had bloomed in the early morning sun and the small weeds that had begun to grow among them. She felt the familiar sense of calm that came with tending to the garden. She took a few moments to pull the weeds and straighten the pots, thinking about the life of her family and the unspoken sacrifices they all made every day. She remembered the letters and photographs from the drawer and the hidden stories they might contain. She could not shake the feeling that understanding them could help her protect her family. She had always felt a deep connection to her parents, but now she realized there were layers she had yet to uncover. Some memories seemed happy on the surface, but carried shadows of worry and sadness. She longed to know the full story of her family so she could help in ways that truly mattered. Later in the day, she went to the small corner of the room where she kept her notebook and began to write. She wrote about the tasks she had completed, about the small moments that gave her hope, and about the questions that lingered in her mind. She did not have answers yet, but writing helped her sort through her feelings. She wrote about how she wished she could make life easier for her parents, and how she sometimes felt helpless when faced with problems beyond her control. She wrote about her dreams of a time when the family could live without constant worry, and the quiet longing for peace that never seemed far from her thoughts. Her mother called her to help prepare lunch, and she moved quickly to assist. They chopped vegetables and washed rice, moving together as they had done many times before. She noticed the subtle signs of stress in her mother's movements. The way she paused sometimes and the way her hands fidgeted, she wondered what thoughts were running through her mind and how much she was carrying alone. She tried to offer comfort through her presence, through small gestures, like handing her mother a towel or offering to carry dishes. Even before being asked after lunch, she returned to the drawer where the old letters and photographs were kept. She pulled them out carefully and began to examine them more closely. The letters were faded, and the handwriting was sometimes difficult to read. She noticed patterns she had not seen before, small hints that suggested events long ago had shaped the way her parents lived their lives. She wondered why these things had been hidden and what consequences they might have had. She felt a mixture of curiosity and caution, knowing that some secrets might be too heavy to bear without understanding the full story. She spent hours looking through each letter, carefully noting names, dates, and small details that might explain things she had only guessed at before. She saw references to financial difficulties, to health concerns, and to decisions that had been made in private. She could see why her parents had been hesitant to share these things. She felt a deep empathy for them, understanding that life often required difficult choices that could not be explained easily. In the afternoon, she decided to step outside again for a short walk. This time, she walked to the small path that led to the edge of the town. She liked the feeling of being in open space, of seeing life outside her home, and imagining possibilities. She thought about the sacrifices her parents had made to keep the family together and how much they had endured. She wondered how much they had carried in silence and how many nights they had lain awake worrying about the future. She felt a swell of determination to do whatever she could to ease their burdens, even if it meant putting her own wishes aside. And the way back, she noticed a neighbor tending to her garden and exchanged a quiet greeting. She appreciated these small moments of connection with people who understood the rhythms of her life. She often felt that neighbors and friends shared unspoken support that made the weight of daily struggles a little lighter. She walked home slowly, thinking about how she could contribute not only to her own family, but also to the community that surrounded them. That evening, the family gathered for a simple meal. Her father shared small stories from work, and her mother tried to keep the mood light, even though she could see the worry in her eyes. Her heart ached, seeing them carry burdens she could only guess at. She wanted to ask questions, but she knew it was not the right time. Instead, she offered quiet companionship and small acts of care, like refilling a glass or passing a dish. She understood that sometimes presence was more powerful than words. After dinner, she helped clear the table and then returned to her room. She opened the notebook and began writing about the events of the day, about the small moments of tension and comfort, and about the growing feeling that something hidden was shaping her family's life. She wrote about the letters and photographs and the subtle signs she had noticed in her parents. She wondered what truths lay behind them and how understanding them might help her protect and support her family. As night fell, she lay in bed thinking about the sacrifices her parents had made and the sacrifices she might have to make herself. One thought kept returning to her mind, the idea that understanding the past could help her guide the future. She felt a mixture of fear and hope. She was afraid of what she might uncover, but hopeful that discovering these truths would strengthen the family she loved so deeply. She made a silent promise to herself that she would continue to watch and learn to help and protect, that she would never turn away from the challenges that lay ahead. Night was quiet, except for the faint sounds of life in the town. She thought about the letters she had read, the photographs she had examined, and the small moments of tension and care that marked each day. She felt the growing weight of responsibility, but also a sense of purpose. She understood that her role was more than chores and small gestures. It's about understanding her family's past and helping guide their present and future. She drifted into sleep with determination in her heart, ready to face whatever the coming days would bring. The morning arrived with a heaviness that made her chest tighten. She woke to a quiet house that seemed different from the usual calm. The sun shone softly through the window, but the warmth it brought could not chase away the uneasy feeling that had settled over her. She rose slowly, moving through the room as she had done countless times before, but today each step felt heavier than the last. Her parents were already awake. She noticed the tension in their movements and the lines of worry on their faces. Her mother's hands shook slightly as she poured tea, and her father's gaze was distant, as if he were trying to hold back thoughts that weighed him down. She wanted to ask what was wrong, but something in the way they avoided each other told her it was not a moment for questions. She decided to stay quiet and watch carefully to understand what had shifted, though. Day began with small tasks that usually brought comfort, but today, even the familiar chores felt burdensome. She helped clean the kitchen, wash dishes, and organize the small stack of papers that seemed more urgent than ever. Each action was deliberate and careful. She wanted to do something to ease the strain she felt in the room, but could not yet find the right words or gestures. She remembered the letters and photographs she had discovered in the drawer. She pulled them out and looked at them, again hoping they might give her insight into the current tension. She read the faded words, slowly noticing references to debts long forgotten, 2 health problems that had been hidden, and 2 choices her parents had made in silence. She realized that perhaps these past struggles were coming back to affect them now, and she felt a mixture of concern and determination to help in any way she could. By midday, her father left the house, seemingly to take care of something important outside, but she noticed the worry etched deeper into his features. She stayed with her mother, helping prepare lunch and offering quiet support. She tried to lighten the mood with gentle conversation and small acts of care, like refilling the teapot or arranging the dishes neatly on the table. She could feel her mother leaning on her presence. Even without words, she understood that sometimes being there quietly was the greatest comfort one could offer. After lunch, she returned to the drawer of letters. She pulled out one that had been tucked away carefully. She read it slowly, noticing the handwriting that carried the weight of years and the careful choice of words that suggested a secret kept out of love and fear. She realized that some of the struggles her parents faced were not only financial or health-related, but tied to decisions that had shaped the family in ways she had not fully understood. She felt a growing responsibility to be strong and careful in how she approached what she was learning. The afternoon brought unexpected news. Her father returned home looking more worn than usual. He spoke softly, telling them about a sudden problem that required immediate attention. It was clear that this was more serious than anything they had dealt with recently. The tension in the room grew palpable. She could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her chest. She realized that this was a moment that would require courage and sacrifice beyond anything she had faced before. She moved quickly to assist her father, gathering documents, helping him organize his thoughts, and making sure her mother remained calm. She took on responsibilities that were usually his or her mother's. She made sure every task was done with care and attention. She understood that in this moment, her family needed her strength and focus more than anything else. She pushed aside her own fears and doubts and concentrated on what needed to be done. Hours passed in a blur of activity. She contacted people who could help, made small arrangements, and tried to find solutions. She noticed how exhausted her parents were and how little they wanted to burden her with the details. She felt the weight of their silence and realized that much of what she was doing was something she had to handle alone. She did not complain. She knew that this was her chance to protect her family and to show them that they were not alone in facing this challenge. Evening arrived with little resolution. She and her parents had done everything they could for the day, but the problem remained looming. She sat quietly in her room, reflecting on the events and the burden she had carried. She thought about the letters and photographs again, and how the past struggles might have prepared her for this moment. She realized that her parents had made sacrifices she had only begun to understand, and that now it was her turn to give back in the way she could. That night, the family gathered for a simple meal. She noticed how tired her parents were, how their smiles were forced, and how their eyes carried shadows. She offered quiet support, helping with dishes and preparing small comforts. She felt the sense of connection that came from being together in the midst of difficulty. She knew that her presence mattered and that her actions, though small, were helping hold the family together. Later, she returned to the drawer and carefully reread the letters. She noticed things she had missed before, small mentions of support from distant relatives, hints about decisions made in secrecy, and moments of courage that had gone unrecognized. She realized that the struggles of her family were not new. the part of a long history of quiet endurance. She felt a deep respect for the strength that had been passed down to her, and a renewed determination to honor it through her actions. The following days were filled with relentless effort. She managed tasks that had never been hers. Before coordinating with people outside the family, organizing finances, and making sure her parents had time to rest, she saw the relief in their eyes when she took on responsibilities. They trusted her in ways that made her proud and anxious at the same time. She understood that their trust came with great expectation, and she was determined not to fail. Each night, she returned to her notebook, writing down the events of the day, the challenges she faced, and the small victories that kept her going. She wrote about her fears, her hopes, and the growing awareness of the sacrifices required to protect the family. She also wrote about the courage she saw in her parents and the strength she felt within herself. She felt that documenting these moments helped her process the overwhelming emotions and reminded her why her actions mattered during this time. She also began noticing the little ways her parents tried to shield her from worry. Her mother would smile even when anxious. Her father would offer small reassurances that he did not fully believe she felt the need to absorb these worries. For them to give them a sense of peace, she worked tirelessly, balancing the responsibilities at hand and the emotional needs of her family. It was exhausting, but she did not allow herself to pause. She knew that this was a turning point, and that her actions would shape the future for all of them. One evening, as she sat by the window looking at the fading light, she thought about the nature of sacrifice. She realized that protecting her family meant giving up comfort and sometimes her own happiness. She understood that love was measured not only in words, but in deeds, in the quiet moments of responsibility and the tasks done without recognition. She felt a sense of purpose in this understanding that gave her strength to face whatever came next. The crisis began to reveal layers she had not expected. Some of the hidden secrets her parents had guarded so carefully began to emerge. She saw the connections between past choices and present difficulties, and realized that understanding these connections was essential for finding solutions. She felt a mix of apprehension and resolve, knowing that the more she learned, the more responsibility she carried. She accepted this responsibility, fully determined to protect her family through every challenge. As the nights grew long, she remained vigilant. She checked documents, double-checked arrangements, and kept a careful watch over every detail. She also made time to offer comfort, small gestures that reminded her parents that they were not alone. She felt a growing sense of maturity and confidence in her ability to handle situations she once thought impossible. She understood that her sacrifices were shaping the present and the future of her family in ways she had only begun to comprehend. Through the struggle, she also noticed moments of quiet hope. Her parents occasionally shared smiles, laughter bubbled softly in between the tension, and she realized that even in the darkest times, there was room for light. She held on to these moments, cherishing them as proof that perseverance and love could carry them through anything. She drew strength from their smiles, knowing that every effort she made was making a difference. The morning came with a quiet stillness that felt different from the usual routine. She woke slowly, feeling the weight of the past days and the uncertainty that lingered in the air. She knew that the events that had unfolded were only part of a larger picture, and that there were truths yet to be uncovered. She rose from bed quietly, moving through the familiar space of the room, thinking about what she had learned and what might lie ahead. In the kitchen, she found her mother preparing breakfast. Her movements were careful, but there was a tension in her shoulders that spoke of hidden worries. She helped without words, chopping vegetables and arranging dishes. She noticed the small details, the way her mother paused while stirring the pot, the way her eyes darted to the stack of papers on the counter. She felt that the time had come to pay closer attention to the subtleties and the unspoken messages that filled the house. Her father arrived shortly after, bringing with him news that required immediate attention. He spoke softly about events from the past weeks that had begun to surface and the challenges that had resulted from decisions made long ago. She listened carefully, noting every detail. Her mind racing to connect the pieces, she realized that the hidden secret her parents had carried for so long was now slowly becoming visible, and that it had a direct impact on the difficulties they were facing. She spent the morning gathering documents, sorting through old letters and photographs, and trying to make sense of the information. She noticed patterns that had escaped her before, connections Between financial difficulties, health problems, and family decisions made years earlier, it became clear that the family had endured challenges that went far deeper than she had imagined, and that understanding these challenges was essential for finding solutions. She felt a mixture of sadness and determination, knowing that uncovering the truth was necessary. Her mother joined her briefly in the task, offering quiet guidance. She noticed the hesitancy in her voice and the careful way she chose her words. She realized that some parts of the past were painful and that her parents had shielded her from them to protect her. She felt a growing empathy for the sacrifices they had made and the burdens they had carried in silence. She understood that uncovering these truths would require sensitivity, patience, and courage. By afternoon, she had pieced together fragments of the story. She saw that decisions made long ago had shaped the current situation. The family had faced financial losses due to unforeseen circumstances, health concerns that had been kept private, and choices that required compromise and sacrifice. She realized that the hidden secret was not something shameful, but a reflection of the strength and resilience her parents had shown over the years. She took a moment to step outside into the yard. The sun was warm on her skin, and the garden seemed to offer a small sense of calm. She thought about the family she loved, the sacrifices she had witnessed, and the courage that had been passed down to her. She realized that her role was not only to help manage the current difficulties, but also to honor the legacy of strength and care that had shaped her family. She felt a renewed sense of purpose as she returned inside. The afternoon was filled with careful conversations and shared reflections. She encouraged her parents to talk about the past too, explain details that had been unclear. She listened without judgment, trying to understand the motivations and the emotions behind the decisions. She noticed moments of relief in her parents' eyes as they spoke, realizing that sharing the burden even partially brought a small sense of freedom. She felt that the family was beginning to heal not only from the present difficulties but also from the weight of unspoken history. As evening approached, she helped prepare a simple meal. Her father offered small insights about events from long ago, and her mother shared memories she had never told. She felt a deep connection as the story unfolded, a connection strengthened by understanding and shared experience. She realized that the secret that had seemed so mysterious was a story of love, sacrifice, and resilience. She felt gratitude for the chance to witness and participate in this moment of clarity. After dinner, she returned to her room and reviewed the letters and photographs again. She noticed details she had missed before, small gestures and handwriting, the tone of words and subtle references that now made sense. She felt that every piece of the past was coming together, forming a picture that was both enlightening and humbling. She understood that the sacrifices she had observed and the challenges she had helped manage were part of a larger story of endurance and care. The night was quiet, except for the soft sounds of the town settling down. She reflected on the discoveries of the day, the truths that had emerged, and the understanding she had gained. She felt a sense of responsibility to protect this knowledge and to use it to strengthen her family. She realized that uncovering the secret had not only explained the past, but also guided her in how to approach the present. In the future, she also noticed the subtle ways her parents were adjusting to sharing the truth. She saw small smiles, the ease of conversation, the relief in gestures that were once tense. She felt that the honesty was creating space for healing and connection. She understood that her presence and her willingness to engage with the difficult truths had helped bring this change about. She felt a sense of quiet pride and determination to continue supporting her family through the ongoing challenges. During the night, she returned to her notebook, writing down the events, the revelations, and the emotions they stirred. She reflected on the courage of her parents, the resilience of her family, and the growing awareness of her own strength. She wrote about the lessons she had learned about patience, understanding, and the importance of facing difficult truths. She felt that documenting these experiences helped her process the emotions and solidified the role she had in her family's journey. The following days were filled with continued effort to integrate the lessons of the past into the present. She helped organize finances, resolve pending issues, and support her parents in ways that respected both their experiences and the emerging truth. She noticed how each small act of care and understanding contributed to a sense of stability she felt, that the family was slowly moving toward a place of calm and clarity even amidst ongoing challenges. She also began noticing the growth in herself. She felt more confident in managing responsibilities, more patient in understanding the complexities of human behavior, and more empathetic toward the struggles of others. She realized that the process of uncovering the secret had not only strengthened her family, but it also shaped her character, teaching lessons that would guide her throughout life. One afternoon, she and her parents sat together going through old photographs. She noticed the warmth in their smiles, the careful way they held each memory, and the subtle expressions of pride and love. She understood that these images represented more than moments in time. They represented endurance, courage, and the hidden sacrifices that had sustained the family. She felt honored to be part of this ongoing story and grateful for the chance to contribute to the family's present and future. As evening fell, she prepared for bed, reflecting on the day, the discoveries, and the quiet moments of connection. She felt a sense of closure for some of the mysteries that had haunted her understanding of her family. She also felt anticipation for the future, knowing that the challenges ahead would require continued strength and dedication. She felt confident that the bonds forged through sacrifice, honesty, and care would carry them through whatever came next. That night, she lay awake thinking about the importance of uncovering truths, the courage required to face them, and the healing that could follow. She understood that the hidden secret had been both a burden and a gift, providing lessons about resilience, responsibility, and love. She felt a deep sense of purpose in her role as a guardian of her family's well-being and a participant in the story of endurance that had shaped them. As she thought about how the revelations had changed her understanding of her parents and herself, she realized that the sacrifices made over the years had created a foundation for strength and unity. She felt a profound respect for their courage and a commitment to honor that legacy through her actions. She understood that love was measured not only in care but in the willingness to face difficult truths and support one another through every challenge. The morning felt lighter than it had in a long time. She woke slowly, noticing the calm in the house and the quiet smiles of her parents. As they moved through their morning routine, she felt a sense of relief, knowing that the tensions of the past weeks were beginning to ease. She moved to the kitchen to help with breakfast, the familiar motions comforting and grounding. She noticed how her parents seemed less burdened, carrying themselves with a little more ease than before. She prepared the meal, carefully arranging dishes and setting the table with attention. Her mother watched her for a moment and smiled in a way that spoke of gratitude without words. Her father joined soon after, looking more relaxed than he had in days. The quiet joy of being together in the small kitchen filled her with warmth. She understood that the small acts of care she had carried out had contributed to this peace, and that her presence and dedication had made a difference. After breakfast, she gathered her parents and began gently revisiting the letters and photographs. She encouraged conversation about the past and listened carefully to their stories. She noticed their eyes soften as they spoke freely about events that had once been too heavy to share. She realized that uncovering the hidden truths not only explained the challenges they faced, but it also allowed the family to reconnect in ways that had been impossible before. They spent hours talking through the details of past struggles, discussing the decisions that had been made and the sacrifices each had carried. Silently, she felt a sense of awe at the resilience her parents had shown and a deep pride in the courage they all displayed together. She understood that the family's strength was not only in surviving hardship, but in facing it honestly and supporting one another through every difficulty. In the afternoon, she decided to help organize the small home, clearing clutter and arranging things in a way that brought calm and order. She noticed how her parents seemed lighter as each task was completed. The simple act of cleaning and arranging became symbolic of the clarity and openness now present in the family. She felt that by taking care of the space around them, she was also helping to care for the emotional environment, and that her efforts were contributing to lasting peace. She took a moment to sit in the garden, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The sun was warm, the birds sang softly, and the flowers swayed gently in the breeze. She thought about the hidden secret, the way it had shaped their lives. She realized that Uncovering it had revealed not only challenges, but also incredible acts of love, courage, and dedication. She felt grateful to witness the strength of her family and proud to play a part in their healing. As evening approached, they shared a simple meal together. The conversation flowed easily now, without the tension that had weighed on them for weeks. Her parents laughed softly, sharing memories that had been painful before, but now were tempered with understanding. She felt a quiet joy in being able to witness these moments. The knowledge that their family had moved from secrecy and fear to honesty and connection filled her heart. After dinner, she helped clear the table, and then gathered her parents to look at old photographs together. She noticed the pride in their eyes, the gentle gestures of affection, and the shared smiles that spoke of unity and understanding. She realized that the hidden struggles of the past had created a bond that was stronger than any difficulty she felt. That through their shared experiences, the family had grown closer, and that the sacrifices they had endured had not been in vain. She spent time that night writing in her notebook, reflecting on the events of the day, the conversations, and the quiet victories that had occurred. She wrote about the courage she had witnessed, the resilience of her parents, and the strength she had discovered in herself. She understood that documenting these moments helped preserve the lessons learned and allowed her to carry the wisdom of these experiences forward into the future. Over the following days, she continued to help her family, integrating the lessons of the past into their daily lives. She supported her parents in practical ways by managing tasks and responsibilities while also offering emotional support. She noticed how each small effort contributed to the overall sense of stability and calm in the house. She felt satisfaction in knowing that her presence and actions were helping create a home where honesty and understanding could thrive. She also began to see the changes within herself. The experience had taught her patience, empathy, and resilience. She noticed that she could handle challenges with greater calm, that she could listen more carefully, and that she could offer support without feeling overwhelmed. She understood that the journey through difficulty had strengthened her character and deepened her appreciation for the value of family bonds. One afternoon, she sat with her parents, looking through the old letters once more. She noticed how the stories had changed in her understanding. Now that they were shared openly, she realized that the hardships of the past had been acts of love in disguise that had shaped the family into what it was today. She felt a deep sense of gratitude and honor, knowing that she had played a part in uncovering the truth and helping her family find peace. As days passed, the family began to enjoy moments of lightness and joy that had been missing for so long. They laughed together, shared stories of the past, and made plans for the future. She felt a sense of fulfillment in seeing her parents more relaxed and content. She understood that the sacrifices she had made had been meaningful, not only in solving immediate problems, but in strengthening the emotional bonds and trust within the family. At night, she would reflect quietly, thinking about the journey from fear and uncertainty to understanding and healing. She thought about the courage required to face difficult truths and the strength found in supporting one another. She realized that the experience had taught her invaluable lessons about love, sacrifice, and resilience. She felt a deep sense of purpose and readiness to face whatever the future held, knowing that the family was stronger together. She also noticed the quiet recognition in her parents' eyes. They acknowledged her dedication and sacrifices in small ways, through gestures and words that spoke volumes. She felt the warmth of gratitude and love, and understood that true recognition did not always need to be loud or grand. She realized that her actions had been seen and appreciated even when unspoken, and that this acknowledgement strengthened the bond she shared with her family. In the following weeks, the family continued to rebuild and strengthen their lives together. She helped her parents with tasks large and small, providing support while also encouraging them to take time for themselves. They began to focus on moments of happiness and connection, allowing the lessons of the past to guide them without being weighed down by them. She felt a quiet satisfaction in seeing the household filled with calm and understanding. Also made time for herself to reflect and recharge. Understood that caring for others required attention to her own well-being. She spent quiet moments in the garden, reading, writing, and contemplating the journey they had taken. She felt a sense of balance emerging from the ability to give and receive care and to recognize the importance of nurturing both family and self. As time went on, the family celebrated small milestones together. They shared meals without worry, discussed plans for the future, and created new memories to replace the shadows of past difficulties. She noticed how laughter returned to the house and how simple gestures carried meaning. She felt joy in knowing that her efforts had contributed to this happiness and that the family was moving forward with renewed strength. And unity, the hidden secret, once a source of fear and uncertainty, had become a source of understanding and connection, allowed the family to acknowledge the past and use it to guide their present and future. Realized that uncovering the truth had created a foundation for honesty, resilience, and love that would continue to shape their lives. She felt a profound sense of accomplishment in having participated in this transformation. Each night, she reflected on the journey, the sacrifices made, and the lessons learned. She understood that the experience had strengthened her character and deepened her appreciation for family. She felt a sense of peace, knowing that her efforts had not only resolved past difficulties, but had also fostered trust, connection, and emotional growth. She drifted to sleep with a heart full of gratitude, love, and hope, ready to face the future with courage and understanding. The days that followed were filled with calm purpose and quiet happiness. She and her parents moved through life with a renewed sense of unity. They faced challenges together, supported one another, and celebrated the moments of joy that had returned to their lives. She felt proud of the courage and dedication that had carried them through the difficulties and grateful for the lessons of resilience and love that had been revealed. In the end, she understood that the ultimate sacrifice she had made and the attention she had paid to the hidden truths had created something far greater than temporary solutions. It had created trust, connection, and the ability to face life with courage and togetherness. She realized that love expressed through sacrifice, care, and understanding could heal wounds, strengthen bonds, and transform lives. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that her family was stronger, happier, and more connected than ever before.